The year that humorist won the Derby saw that rare phenomenon, a drought in England, and my crop, carefully timed for the flower show, failed, burned to a crisp. By now, the self-appointed jester to the upper classes, I decided to fill the gap, and creeping out of the dormitory after dark, I made my way downstairs, and flitting from tree to tree in the moonlight, arrived at a well-known gap in the wall, which separated Heatherdown from Heathfield, the girls' school next door. From preliminary reconnaissance, I knew that this gap opened onto the kitchen garden. I selected a huge vegetable marrow plant, pulled it up by the roots, and once safely back on the male side of the wall, hid it behind a piece of corrugated iron. The next morning, I retrieved the marrow, and in the hubbub caused by the arrival of other boys' parents in Daimlers and Rolls-Royces, managed to plant my prize on my poor piece of desert. It didn't go down very well. The Countess of Jersey, one of the parents, presented the prizes. She didn't give me one, and later I was caned, not for making a nonsense of the flower show, which could have been justified, but for stealing, which put a totally different connotation on the thing. After this, I went rapidly downhill, from popular school clown to unpopular school nuisance. Striving to maintain my waning reputation, I fell in the lake and nearly drowned, purposely split the seat of my trousers on the school walk through Ascot, and was caught trying to get into the racecourse, a hideous crime. At long last, after one particularly provocative exploit, it was decided that the school could get along without me. I was 10 and a half when I was expelled. There's a Chinese proverb to the effect that when everything in the garden is at its most beautiful, an ill wind blows the seeds of weeds, and suddenly, when least expected, all is ugliness. The decision to remove me from Heatherdown, I'm sure, was not taken lightly, because in those days expulsion from school was tantamount to ruin for a boy of my age. Arriving in disgrace, but not, of course, realizing it, on Waterloo Station at the end of the term, I was collected by a silent, imperious Tommy who always met me and put me on the train for Portsmouth, where my mother would be waiting, to take me to our new home, a cottage in the Isle of Wight. Soon I was alone in a sooty compartment that smelled of stale smoke and orange peel, watching the retreating figure of my stepfather stalking towards the exit. 2 hours later, the green Hampshire countryside gave way to the drab outskirts of Portsmouth, and as the train slowed down for its first stop, Portsmouth town, I looked down into the busy heart of the city. Another 5 minutes, 10 at the most, and I would see my mother, and the holidays really would start. The train stopped. The guard opened the door, and a gigantic man in a trench coat with a magenta-coloured face and tufts of hair sprouting on his cheekbones filled the doorway. "Get your things," he commanded. "You're coming with me." "No, sir," I quavered. My mother's waiting for me at Portsmouth Harbour." "Don't argue, get your bloody things." Stupefied with fear, I cowered into my corner. "Oh, Christ," said the man to the guard. "Get his bloody things down, will you? I'll lug him out." With that, while the guard lowered my suitcase and mackintosh, this huge creature picked me up bodily. I don't think I fought much or even cried. I was paralyzed with terror. Commander Bollard ran a school for difficult boys. He was an unlovable man who fulminated constantly against the terrible injustice he'd suffered by being axed from the Navy when a promising lieutenant commander. Now, he and his thin-lipped, blue-veined, tweedy, terribly refined wife added to his meagre pension and indulged their mutual passion for pink gin by taking in a dozen or so boarders. The boarders were, without exception, pretty hard cases. Nearly all had been expelled from one or more schools, and despairing parents had committed them to the tender care of Commander and Mrs. Bollard, hoping that stern discipline would work where kindness or indifference had so far failed. The gallant commander laid about him with a will on the smallest excuse, and there was hardly a bottom in the house that did not bear witness to his Dickensian brutality. A couple of grey-faced ex-schoolmasters came every day to give us almost continuous lessons, and there were no games. We were treated like young criminals, and soon began to feel that we might just as well behave like them. On Saturday afternoons, the ship's company, as the commander liked to refer to his charges, split up into highly organized gangs of 4 or 6 and went shoplifting for chocolate, condensed milk, cakes, batteries, flashlights, and other essentials. Curly and Dusty were the 2 unchallenged gang leaders. I worked mostly in Curly's group. A large, foxy-faced boy with a mop of sandy hair, protruding teeth and freckles. He called the shots on Saturdays. He was a brilliant organizer, and that year had decided that as summer was coming on, thin cotton shirts and singlets would be most acceptable to our Fence's regular customers, sailors heading for the Indian Ocean, Dakar or Panama. 3 weeks passed.
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.